Hi.
Short Bus Debate Club. It's a bus rolling.
I can get on board. Hello, I'm Darren Jolly.
It's time to get this short bus started. So let's roll and on with the show.
You just did a countdown, dude.
Hello and welcome to Short Bus Debate Club. We're still talking about drugs.
The next time you do a 3, 2, 1, just for the record, don't fucking sit there and look at me for like 4 seconds after you go 3, 2.
Well,
1.
dude, I didn't have the cursor over the fucking record button. So I went 3, 2, 1, and then I had to look down and find the record button.
So there was an actual practical difficulty.
Yeah.
So we've learned something. The next time you do a countdown, you have to put the cursor over the play record button.
That is correct. And for those of you that don't know, that asshole that was just talking, well, that could have been me, but the one that was talking right prior was Darren. And I'm Brian Courtney, and drugs is the topic, yeah?
Well, drugs and popular culture in like movies and we'll do that for an hour-ish, and then we'll
figure out
peel off
something else.
into some other well we just kind of
we can maybe continue it. I don't know, because we got to figure something out.
Yeah, we want to keep you guys peeled to the speakers,
because people were fucking dropping off a little bit on the entertainment ones when we were just giving
We're trying to appeal to what you all want. So if you fucking communicated with us a little more, since there were 80 of you that downloaded it this week, we would love that. That was our biggest download on Thursday. We really appreciate that.
Yeah.
So we are all about communication. That's why we sit here and talk for fucking hours on end. So we would really like for this conversation to be more than 2 ways. Please, more than 2 ways.
Yeah, just let us know what the fuck we're saying. If you like it, don't like it, or fuck, maybe you don't speak English and you're listening to it in the Philippines trying to learn English.
Yeah, whoever, shout out to the fucking Filipino. Thank you. We love you. If you have anything to say that you want us to speak about, or maybe you would want to comment on what it is that we're doing, we'll find a way to hook up and put you on the show.
I don't know. She's between 18 and 23.
She's a fucking adult.
Oh, no. That isn't what I was saying. I'm just saying.
I don't want to put anybody in a bad spot, too. I know that sometimes your presidents are very good and sometimes your presidents are not very good. And they tend to purge motherfuckers down there. And I'm not making a joke. I know how things go down there sometimes, so. Not like firsthand, but I mean, I read about it and shit, and it doesn't look very good sometimes.
Well, they got that militia group. What are they called? The Tigers? Something Tigers?
I'd have to look it up.
But you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
Okay, so we're going to talk about drug movies and or entertainment, books, whatever. I don't know. I know if we thought about books, the only one that really pops into my head is Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
All kinds of shit. Ask Alice,
I'm not a huge fan of Hunter S. Thompson, though.
Dude, he was an interesting fella.
He was, and he helped Liesl a lot.
Dude, he got her out of fucking prison, and to boot, he did as much for thinking about the problems of journalism during his time period as anybody else did. I mean, because he was on the trail with candidates for a while, and just making just a shit ton of fun of like all the stupid conversations that they had. And I mean, Hunter had some things to say,
Well, he should make fun of most of them. But back then, what was it? That was like Jimmy Carter and shit, right?
Even before that. I think that he started doing it in the late 60s, to be perfectly honest with you. So he did his book on Hell's Angels. So.
Well, and that would relate to drugs too.
As well.
Yeah.
Well, dude, there's no doubt. Hunter S. Thompson, I mean, there's a reason why you can't really fault Johnny Depp entirely for all the shit that happened in that stupid fucking
the movie.
No, not the movie. I know he played the Hunter S. Thompson character, but he just went through that trial with his ex-wife and all
the fucking stupid Aqua bitch.
Yeah, the Aqua bitch. That's correct. Yeah. I can't remember what her fucking name is. Amber Heard. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean,
she's hot as hell, but what a cunt.
Obviously it was pretty foolish, like the way that it all played out. But I think that Hunter S. Thompson had a little bit, and I'm not Johnny Depp. You're responsible for your partying. I know that you've never even tried to push it on anybody else. I know who you played Jack Sparrow for a reason because you're a fucking mess.
That's
dude.
because he had so much juice with Disney because of all of the Pirates movies.
Mm-hmm.
He got her the fucking Aqua Bitch job.
Oh, he's the one that got her in on that.
Yeah, nobody else.
Of the Caribbean shit.
This is all from the dude. I heard this from the guy at Lazy J's. He was telling me.
You can give a shout out to the guys at Lazy J's. They don't give me a discount even, dude.
All you got to do is ask.
Really?
Yeah. And tell them you're a regular customer. They'll give you 15%
The motherfucker knows that I've come in there several times.
Just tell him.
He was so fucking stoned when I went in there this morning, dude. He was like fucking comatose, dude. He's like,
was it the big dude with the beard?
red hair? Yeah.
Oh no, not the red hair.
No, not the dark.
The dark beard guy is the one that told me about all of it because he was like, "Fuck that bitch," and he was talking about how Johnny Depp got her the job.
I met him today for the first time. I'd never seen him in there before. It's always the bigger guy that I've been seeing in the past.
Just tell him either way. I mean,
sorry, dude, you're a dipshit.
You know, I come in all the time.
Had you given me a discount, I would have come in more for the Paradise.
There's two of them. There's two discounts. One, they'll give you a discount if you've never tried something.
Well, they should have given that to me then. I was like, what is this thing? You know? And they're like, and I already knew because you had told me what it was. But he's like, oh, that's supposed to be the most potent one. I said, let me get a couple of those.
And two, they'll give you a discount if you're a regular customer.
You know, he did give me a discount. He gave them to me for $25 a piece instead of $26 a piece. What a fucking cockbag.
All right, enough about Lazy J's. By the way, Lazy J's is a fucking smoke shop on Alameda. And now I'm going to go tell them that they should pay us.
Yeah, they should pay us too. But you got to go see Brian at Mile High Five Tobacco because he's at least good to me, you know? He's very good to me. Those people down there are very good to me.
I like Lazy J's because it's close.
It is very close. But I go see the Freakies kids all the time. You know,
I'm Lazy B.
You want to know something funny about Freakies? Is I literally give cuddles to the girls behind the counter, and they like hold him for a minute, and like at first he was all shaky, but like he knows all of them now. This one like wrapped him up in her fucking pashmina the other day.
By the way, Cuddles is his dog.
Yeah, he's a 5.5-pound Maltese, and he's 14 years old, and he's trying to eat my fucking tortilla right now.
I told you.
I didn't think he'd go for the tortilla. I thought he'd need a little bit of that red beans and rice on there. All right, let's talk about fucking.
Yeah, so sorry about the detour on the Aqua Bitch and everything, but it was the dude at Lazy J's because he laid into it, and I couldn't walk out the door because every time I tried, he went back into it. So
he was irritated by the fact that she got so shitty with him because he's the one that gave her the end to that big fucking role in the first place.
Right.
She's kind of an ungrateful individual.
She's a hooah. A hooah.
I was trying to be nominally PC. I apologize.
Well, I called her a cunt like 10 minutes ago.
I know. So then we went. So like one of the movies that I watched, one of the documentaries I watched was heroin on Cape Cod, right? Which is made in 2015.
The ambulance driver, is that the one?
No, it was not about an ambulance driver. It was just about like 5 or 6 kids that were from Cape Cod. They were all kids, white fucking kids from middle class backgrounds, upper middle class backgrounds. I mean, it has to be upper middle class backgrounds because their fucking parents kept putting them into fucking.
Well, and they lived on Cape Cod.
Yeah, you can't be. Yeah, those are $1 million homes.
I mean, if you work in Cape Cod, that's one thing. You take the bus there. If you live in Cape Cod, I don't think you're even lower middle class, probably.
That's what I said. Upper middle, probably. Yeah. So, and well, these kids at all. So they'd be going into a. So the way that I thought about the movies, just before I go into the Cape Cod thing for a second, at least the way that I framed it, as much shit as I gave you for your category thing earlier, all right? There's pop culture movies or shows like Dazed and Confused was that kind of romanticize or make drugs look appealing on some level or another in different ways.
And then there's the ones that make it look like it's a fucking horror story.
So yeah, so but even the ones that I started watching Euphoria. You told me that you've gotten through it, right? But I can't tell whether or not that one is a horror story or trying to make it look good. It's very
I
weird.
think it's both.
Yeah.
So if you guys haven't noticed, I'm a fan of drugs, and not because I do all of the drugs, but in Euphoria, it seems like they do all of the drugs.
As like fucking teenagers, like children.
Coke, fentanyl, heroin, weird fucking precursors that haven't become illegal yet.
Yeah, like when he says that, he means, so like you got something like MDMA, and like we were talking earlier, like you have a chemist, and MDMA has like these multiple branches that come out of it. They have these chemical components, and you like leave this one branch off, or you add something to this specific branch so that it's no longer illegal. Because what makes a drug technically illegal is that it has this chemical compound signature that ties to it. LSD is a specific thing. MDMA is a specific thing. Heroin's a specific thing. Blah 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 blah. There are these spaces, and in these spaces they end up in places like head shops, right, where you can buy,
or sometimes gas stations.
Gas stations have them. Yeah, it's very fucking weird. They have these MDMA substitutes or these LSD substitutes, and they're not illegal. And these kids. I had a niece who.
But the ones that are really good, like the raver type ones, are not sold at gas stations or head shops. You've got to buy them from
black market
a drug dealer.
Yeah,
which is weird because at that point, technically, they're legal because they haven't met that.
But that's what's awesome about it, right? Is because they're selling something that's legal. They know that it's ultimately going to become illegal, but they don't want it to hit the popular. They want it to be self-contained in these spaces where the people that are consuming them are doing them. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, if you look at the way that drug culture has evolved into these spaces of very peculiar consciousness, it's fascinating. Like, and it's not something that it's so covert. Like, you're never going to be able to. You can only understand it through word of mouth or through these different spaces that you kind of get glimpses of them.
Maybe for certain drugs, but I think a lot of it has become so fucking mainstream. Like you're talking, and you haven't gone through the whole Cape Cod thing, but you're talking about these kids that are upper middle class. Well, I'm willing to bet, if I had to, that the fucking minivan mom is probably doing oxycodone, and the kids started off that way, like they were stealing her oxy. And this is speculation.
And that's only one instance. Like in these kids that were in Cape Cod, in all instances, that it just seemed to be like what was happening. There was a girl who she went through a windshield. Her face got lacerated. She had like 250 fucking. They showed the picture. She had like 250 stitches on her face, and they gave her oxycodone, and they gave her my personal favorite.
Dilaudid?
Dilaudid, yes, they gave her Dilaudid. So, and I mean, like if that's how you get introduced, Dilaudid's very heavy. Dilaudid's just like literally like to be honest with you, I think that it's tougher to walk away from than morphine is, and morphine is a tough one to walk away from, right? So,
are you asking me?
Well, I mean, I'm just throwing out there that when I had my experiences with it when I was, whatever, 15 years ago, that was something that I had a real taste for. I mean, and it was very difficult for me to walk away from when it was fucking there. But there was a kid that was in a motorcycle accident. There was a kid that hurt himself really bad during soccer. The kid that had a motorcycle accident had a compound fracture in 5 different places in his leg. Ouch. I mean, he was all fucked up.
On multiple occasions, or I should say in multiple documentaries, I have seen to where they're riding around with cops or ambulance drivers or somebody in this public service space, right? And they're in one of these towns in fucking West Virginia or Eastern Pennsylvania or Eastern Michigan or, somewhere up in the fucking Rust Belt.
Ohio, yeah.
Wisconsin. So they're riding around in these places and they're talking to them and they say, oh, well, so here's the main problem is that these people got in really bad accidents, or they had a football injury or something along those lines where, oxycodone or Vicodin or whatever was prescribed to them for so long. And then when they were done with that, they had nowhere else to go. So they ended up buying heroin. And like this one cop on this one documentary, he's driving down this road and it looks like just a residential road.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some fairly nice houses. A lot of them are shitholes. It's a little bit run down. But he's like, hookers stroll this fucking neighborhood all the time so that they can fuck somebody and then go the next street over and buy heroin or go, down the street a little more. So I think that's kind of like the Cape Cod thing.
So, I mean, okay, just in that context specifically, there was this young lady. At the end, her name was Marissa. She was 23 years old. She had broken her leg or something like that in a soccer accident or something, like playing soccer. So, like, I broke my arm.
Is she one of the Cape Cod girls?
She's a Cape Cod,
okay.
She's a Cape Cod kid. So let me backtrack a little bit, right? And just like, so like one of the fundamental dangers of what's happening to these kids, I think, is that they don't know how to negotiate pain in like a meaningful way, right? So like I broke my arm twice when I was 2, once when I was 7, once when I was 9. I broke it again when I was like 26 or 27 years old or something like that. But I never had surgery. There was no fucking painkillers. There was, I remember like
give him some Tylenol and let him rest.
The second time I did it when I was 2. So like I had a cast on for 3 weeks. I had it off for 3 weeks. Like, so that one time I was an idiot. I was like going on the back of a fucking couch, like pretending I was a tightrope. I literally remember being 2 years old and like this thought process being in my head. And I remember falling. I don't remember the impact because it fucking hurt. I broke my fucking arm on a marble floor. They took me to the fucking hospital. They set it, and dude, when you're 2 years old, you heal like a motherfucker, dude. So like
kids are fucking resilient.
Yeah, dude.
Made of rubber.
Resilient. So this is again like why I question the way that they're doing this to kids that are like in their teenage years, especially. But like pain's tough, but sometimes. So I had the cast on for 3 weeks. I had it off for 3 weeks. I was standing in a room with my dad. I don't remember this one. My dad always tells me about it, and he laughs at me because he said I clearly had a very good imagination. I was standing on the top, and there was this end table right next to the couch, and I thought I was Superman or something. I put my arms out and I tried to dive over it like I could fucking fly or something like that. I did not fly, and
really,
it's hard to imagine, that I did not have any superhero capabilities.
That's fucking nuts, dude.
So either way, they take me to so like I'm crying, they take me to the fucking doctor's office, and because doctors had X-rays, like where I was at, they had an X-ray in the doctor's office. So but I ran right over to the fucking
machine.
No, to the place where the kids play, and they're like, oh, he's fucking fine. There's nothing wrong with him. They take me in, they fucking give me an X-ray, and a fucking broken arm, dude.
Well, and I'm not saying that maybe you're right. Maybe kids these days can't negotiate pain because they start getting dosed when they're young. I don't know.
Well, scripts are something.
Well, what I was gonna say though about broken bones and shit, like, so I've never had a broken bone. I don't think.
You broke toes and shit like that, I'm sure. Yeah.
My thumb for sure. I know I break my fingers in my sleep because I'm popping my knuckles.
Really?
Yeah, dude.
Ow. That's gonna fuck with your. That's really gonna hurt.
Well, look how fucking twisted that.
Yeah, you've already got like fucking osteo. What do they call that? Rheumatoid arthritis, and you're not even fucking like 50 yet, bitch.
Yeah. So.
Self-inflicted rheumatoid arthritis. You're a dumb fuck.
This one's twisted too.
Yeah, that's because it healed wrong. I mean, that's the same thing that happened to that finger there.
Well, this pinky was my elevator pinky.
Your elevator. A lot of things in your life go back to that elevator, I think.
Well, I could think of. Oh no, you know what? I have broken ribs before.
Yeah, we talked about that the other day, actually. Floating
fights,
ribs and
yeah, whatever.
You never broke bones, but
ribs.
You learned some stuff about pain or something like that.
Yeah. So I mean, and ribs, they can't do shit for it.
Yeah, and it fucks with your breathing. And
it hurts when you laugh. It hurts if you cough. It hurts if you sneeze. Fuck, if you sneeze, I mean, it could take you down. So, but I've never broken my arms or legs or whatever. But what I was thinking when you were saying that, like, because you said, well, I just went straight to the play area. And I don't know if this has shit to do with it. And I'm not excusing the medical or pharmaceutical industries in any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
But maybe, just maybe, where you break shit has more or less pain because of where it is compared to, say, your radial nerve or something like that. So, if it's closer over here to the radial nerve on the other side of the bicep, maybe you feel more pain. If it's on that,
I broke my right arm in 4 different places. I mean,
dude, I'm not trying to fucking.
I understand that you're trying to be scientific about it, but I do think that there's just, in my estimation, a general tendency to try to fix things by giving people medicine. And I don't want to go into some of the other spaces that we'll end up making it to later with regards to that. But by the time where I was gonna get there quick. I wasn't gonna do it in a normal Darren way, right? But the last time that I did it, it was when I did the flip off the bike and I tore my labrum and I broke my wrist. You fucked
yourself up, dude.
That was the first time that I was ever given pain medication.
Because that's when I always fucked with you, like when I was talking to Erica and Roxanne.
Was that when you were saying that?
When I was like, "What do you
give myself a hand hump or something like that?" because my right when I tore my labrum, they didn't want me to move my fucking right arm for like 3 months, so it was like glued up against my chest in this fucking cast. And so Brian said, with the cast on, with it stuck like that, I could give myself a hand hump.
Yeah, he just had to throw it up on the table and.
It was a pretty awesome cast. I had a red and black cast, so. I was like representing, so to speak, But either way, so like they gave me. It's so funny. So he gave me like 30 Percocets, and they gave me ones that were crushable.
Like 5s. Oh no.
They gave me
okay.
He gave me
no Tylenol.
Crushables, yeah. And but I didn't know what that meant at that point in time. So after about a month, my shoulder was still
silly
fucked up,
rabbit. And Crushables are for kids.
I had just gotten through the first batch of them, and I'm like, dude, you need to get. He's like, I don't want to give you anymore. I'm like, dude, I have a broken fucking wrist and a torn fucking labrum, and I can't move, and I try to sleep at night. I said, I don't fucking sleep. I said, this is the only way that I even fall asleep at all is when I take a little bit of that painkiller. I said, and I break them in half. I said, just give me a fucking small prescription so that I can do what I need to. So he could tell that I was not bullshitting, and I wasn't bullshitting him. I really didn't realize. When it was 2003 when it happened, I did not realize how all of the different things that developed out of this. So finally,
that's when they started to crack down on everything. Was about 03, 04, right?
So the second one though was a higher dose. I think there were 15s, and we ended up going to. I didn't barely take any of them. I got out of the cast, and one of Nicole's friends, who I will not. He's a really good guy though. He's a very decent guy, good writer. I brought him up and he said, so they gave you this, he says, my sister's a heroin addict and she goes dumpster diving in Portland every night and this and that. And she's had a bunch of these problems and blah, 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 blah. He said, I can't believe that they gave you those. He said, because those you can crush and snort. I was like, crush and snort? I was like, I don't even know what the fuck you mean, So ultimately, I took them up to Nicole's that following weekend. We're all drinking, and we crushed and snorted, 10 or 15 of them, and I realized what it was that he was talking about at that point in time.
They really didn't start cracking down until probably 10.
Until
2010.
2010. Yeah, this was really early.
But I've never, and I've had them, but I never do the crush and snort because I want the longer lasting.
And that's better for you anyway. That made sense. But again, I was a dumb shit.
No. I wasn't criticizing you. I mean, a buzz is a buzz. one of the main reasons that I like pills is because I don't have to make as much effort as I do with drinking. You know, and maybe it's because of my fucking amazing Irish liver, but I have to drink a lot to fucking get a buzz, dude.
But you have that. But you have some other physiological difficulties when it comes to other things as well.
Well, my liver fucking burns everything, dude.
Yeah. So, but I mean, you did that test at the doctor's where they checked to see how quickly you burned off the pain medication, and you burned it off 4 times faster than a normal person.
I metabolize shit like it's crazy, dude.
It's very these are things that like people don't understand or think about it, and understand that anything we do now is all prescribed. We don't fuck around with anything that's not prescribed anymore.
Okay, so I just want to circle back.
Yeah. Okay.
So Euphoria, and you and I were talking about this before we started recording.
Yes.
And maybe this has something to do with what you were talking about. I don't know.
But, like a nightmare and
because we were talking about it because the show scared the shit out of me. Not because
horrible shit.
Not because of the drugs, but because of the weird rapes and the fact that these girls are fucking showing themselves on the internet and fucking putting fuck videos up to where everybody can see them.
While they're in high school.
Just all of this stuff. That scared the shit out of me. The drugs, I was okay with.
Well, we did a lot when we were young. Well, although it sucks that, I mean, Zendaya's character, she I mean, that's how it sort of begins. Zendaya's character overdoses, and it's her coming out of summer of
rehab.
Being in rehab. So, I mean, that's not true. I mean, we had a few friends that died from overdoses when we were a kid.
Yeah. That, like I said, that isn't what scared me. It was all of the other stuff, the rapes and the weird shit. And don't get me wrong, I mean, there were plenty of naked girls around, but they weren't posting fucking videos and uploading them to the internet.
And we conducted ourselves in a certain way when we were younger.
And I'm not.
It was about consent.
I'm not a prude. And yes, it was about consent.
There was mutual enjoyment between the parties. Hopefully, I mean that's even when you're young and you don't know that well back then, but you at least look, kids, when you make your choices, you got to start out caring about how the other person's enjoying things. It's important.
There was one guy, I think you probably know him. He's a Ronald McDonald looking motherfucker. Lives down in Parker. Anyway, I thought that I was gonna have to fucking punch him one night because I thought he was about to rape some girl.
Oh yeah. That's not, and he should have. And still, he should have
gotten punched.
Yeah. Anybody, but that's what's fucked up about that show. But I mean, at least on some level, like it's being addressed. But still, like that's that whole thing, like where you're like watching it, you know, like the voyeuristic like quality of it. It's almost like porn at that point in time, and that really fucks me up.
Well, it wasn't porn for me, but I got like a sick feeling during the entire show.
I don't mean that. I mean in the show. No, in the show.
Yeah. Okay. But so you and I were talking before we started recording, and it showed the girl when she was younger, and she's like counting these fucking window panes, and her mom keeps interrupting her. And she starts fucking crying. And I don't know how old she is, like 6 or fucking 7. She's young. So the parents take her to the doctor, and the doctor says, oh, well, she's got OCD, and she's probably got depression, and she's got all of this other shit. So the next scene, it shows the mom fucking counting out all of these drugs every day. And she's like,
a child.
Yeah, for a fucking 9-year-old. And she goes, well, you know, there are lots of people that have had the same feelings that you're having right now. And she goes, like, who? And she said, Vincent van Gogh, Sylvia Plath. And she starts naming all of these people that fucking off themselves. So, but what I was getting at is...
That's a hell of a thing to say to your daughter. You're a genius who's going to kill yourself.
Right. So take these pills and you'll feel better. So all of this time, again, the government lies to us constantly. But from the time I can remember, probably back Nancy Reagan, DARE, they were telling us weed is a gateway drug.
Yeah.
And it leads to cocaine, it leads to heroin, it leads to all of this other shit.
This is a really important point, so y'all need to listen. Think about what Brian's about to say.
I think, and I don't know for sure, I don't have any data, but when they give all of these kids shit that shuts off their imagination, their ability to fucking count window panes, any of the stuff, their emotions.
If you give a child an antipsychotic at like 9 years old, then they're going to become lethargic. They're going to become. They're not going to be there. And there's all kinds of weird things that are going to happen if it's Prozac, Paxil, Zoloft, antipsychotics, any of these families of drugs. That
well, and shit, they were giving her Xanax and Valium and tranquilizers.
What's the other speed one?
Adderall.
And what's the other one? Ritalin. They're all these fucking, that we don't know what the midterm, the short term. We know a little bit more. We know a little bit more now, but we really don't know what the consequences are. And certainly when you're giving a child a cocktail of various different varieties of I was watching there's this goofy new show on and this, I guess this applies to drugs, right? There's this goofy new show on Netflix. It's because I watch Grey's Anatomy with my daughter. Sometimes I like to watch the way that new doctor shows deal with questions like health insurance and shit like that.
Is it called New Amsterdam?
Yes, I watched a couple episodes in New Amsterdam. And there's this kid in the second episode who was put on all these crazy medicines when he was young, and he's having a hard time concentrating. He's wet in the bed. All these things are happening. And when they start to pull apart all of these different medicines that they're giving him, he's starting to wet the bed because one of the medicines is giving us sort of like an early onset of diabetes, which is fucking with his kidneys and shit like that. And there's all these things, and he said, so he had this really violent act in school where he just beat the fucking shit. I mean, when I say he beat the fucking shit out of this kid, if they didn't pull him off, he's probably gonna kill the kid, right? And they asked him why he did it, but he was still all so they're like, we need to get all these medicines out of him and ask him the question so we can at least see if he can give us an explanation. So they literally fucking go and put him on
detox him.
They detox him. They put him on with a blood cleaning machine, right? So they do that, and they talk to him, and they find out that his dad had recently died because of an incident that had occurred. The kid felt like he was responsible for it because his dad had a heart condition and he forgot something in his house. Legos, because they went and played Legos at the park, and his dad went back to the house to get the Legos, and he went up 5 flights of stairs and he fucking had a heart attack, right? So there was a kid at school. I know this is hard to imagine, and he was in middle school, 6th grade, and this kid was telling him that it was his fault that his dad died and he was a fucking murderer and that he was a piece of shit just like his dad was a piece of shit. So if your father just died and you're 10 or 11 years old and somebody says something like that to you, I don't know if any of you were ever 10 or 11 years old. I fought more in middle school than I did at any other point in time.
If I would have even needed to be on drugs in order to beat the fuck.
He wasn't on drugs. They put him on drugs because of him beating those people that kid up so bad. They blamed it on these conditions that they said that he had. So heavy, weird shit. But it just turned out that he was a kid that had these psychological things that happened to him that were real in real life, and he needed to process them, and he felt guilty for a ton of things, so he had never been allowed to process this misplaced guilt that he was feeling for something that he wasn't responsible for in the first place.
Well, it's not just kids, and Euphoria is a good show, but I mean, it someone I know really fucking well and love to death, she's on a ton of fucking drugs. And one time, I think it was 97 or 98, she almost fucking died. They had to take her to the hospital, and it turned out that they were giving her too much of this and not enough of that. Because these doctors, for the most part, just say, okay, and I don't want to sound totally fucking cynical because I think some doctors do actually care.
Yeah, and that some of them actually use some of these drugs to
make
possibly
somebody
to a good,
better.
yeah.
But this particular doctor was just writing a script, and I'm guessing it's because there's kickbacks, there's lunches, there's vacations, there's all of this shit that pharmaceutical companies do to entice you to write scripts.
Prescribe them stuff, yeah.
And
that was definitely happening with the Oxy stuff and
the more drugs you push, the more stuff you get in return. Candy, lunches, all of whatever.
A trip to Miami to go play golf, or for 2 people, or whatever.
So she almost died because they prescribed the wrong shit in the wrong dosage. And again, so she was an adult. Maybe that's not directly applicable to Euphoria, but I really think that they're shutting off a lot of these kids. And don't get me wrong, some of them are going to fall through the cracks and be like me, where you just fucking self medicate because you're trying to fill some fucking hole that you can't figure out where it came from.
No, there's this, but like, I just want to be clear about what it is that Brian is suggesting, and we're asking here, right? So like the thing that is being problematized is that, like, so the one that was about the Cape Cod one, right? At the beginning of that, so it was made in 2015. So this is literally what they posited at the minute, and what they say is partly true, but it's not the whole picture, right? They're like, after the decriminalization of marijuana in the United States over the course of the last half decade, the Mexican cartels have pushed tons and tons of heroin up in the United States because they're not making as much money off of weed, right? So there may be a measure of truth to that, but you're making an argument that you literally have very little concrete evidence, and you're extrapolating a very concrete outcome from it. I mean, it's bad. Like, we're obviously, the things that Brian and I are saying are rooted in like a very anecdotal expression of what it is that we're trying to understand. But it's one thing to say something anecdotally and try to say, well, is there a tendency that's behind this that might tell us something about the bigger systemic thing? But we're not saying uh, ultimately all of the heroin problems in the United States are because of the fact that they're decriminalizing marijuana. That is a really, really oversimplified way of thinking about a situation that has many, many more factors that are affecting an outcome. But just to be clear, the point to circle back in that moment, right? Marijuana is always the thing, and alcohol and cigarettes are always the things that are identified as the gateway drugs. Like Brian, when he asked the question, if you're giving children these medicines that are messing with their brain chemistry before they ever even think about touching a cigarette
or hit
touching
puberty, dude.
Yeah. I mean, people want to talk so much shit about giving puberty suppressant stuff, and I'm not for that either. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is that if you're going to say that you shouldn't be giving children the ability to transition unless there's a clear indication that that's something that is appropriate and well thought out, and something that, like, that people have put real thought into, if you're saying that, then you should probably ask whether or not it's appropriate to be giving Klonopin to fucking children, whether it's appropriate to give fucking Xanax or Adderall or Ritalin or Prozac or Zoloft or Wellbutrin or any of these other fucking drugs that we have become, like, literally, we took these children. When I was tutoring in Cherokee Public Schools, I have to think, I believe that 80% of the students that I was working with during that time period were on some sort of a mind altering substance that was prescribed to them by a psychiatrist. What do you think is going to happen to those kids? They're not going to know how to feel. They're not going to know how to interact. They're not going to know their mind has been a chemistry experiment. So they're going to start fucking. Some of them are. I would really be curious to see if there's a correlation between drug abuse right now and the activities that some of those kids were being subjected to when they were young.
I would too, but I think I would really like to see, whether or not Because I think some of these kids are just going to be zombies the rest of their lives.
Well, no matter what, this is not something that can be. I mean, they were a chemistry experiment. They're going to have to deal with the consequences of it, because by the time we figured out socially what the consequences of those things are, the damage is way beyond done. We're so far past the point where, I mean, maybe the fact that the suicide rates right now for men just under the age of 50 are higher than they've ever been, and young women are going up like sky high too. Like, I mean, the guys were noticeable because of all the stuff that was happening with the oxys and stuff, but and because it was in the media, right? But people are fucking killing themselves left and right, and maybe there's something going on behind what it is that you were pointing out with regards to that.
Yeah, and I don't know. Everything that I say is pretty much speculation, unless I, back it up with some fucking data.
But it's at least worth examining. It's something we should be thinking about.
I think so, especially, and again, the pharmaceutical companies, when I talked about, I think it was the last episode where I was talking about, how come these drugs don't work on me? And the doctor said, dude, it's not you. It's, on the low end, 40% of the fucking people it works on. And maybe on the high end, it's like 60%.
You know what? When I was in school, there was a word for that. Oh, it was failure. That's a fucking F. If you're fucking selling something and less than fucking 50% of the people are actually getting any success out of it, and you're still fucking selling it as if it's something that you should be pushing onto people, making them think that there's going to be some sort of a success, that's fucking jackass. That's some stupid shit.
Fucking horrible, dude. And I had to tell him, I can't remember which one it was, whether it was Cymbalta or Savella, but one of them made me completely fucking retarded, like drooling on myself retarded. And the only reason I know that is because I just remember being at my apartment, and one day you came over and said, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And I don't even know if I responded, but
yeah, he was way more retarded than
normal. So I think that there's probably, a connection, but I don't know for sure. And really, I think that they want to keep us all fucking doped up anyway. So
that's probably true. Let's talk. Okay, so let me go back to my categories for just a second.
Yeah.
Right. So the categories were the pop culture stuff, right? The second one is the obvious thing, the one where you look at it as like the horrible like instances, like there was a Beautiful Boy, the one with the kid from Dune.
Basketball Diaries.
Yeah, Basketball Diaries is another good one like that. And then of course like documentaries. Trainspotting is brutal like that. And then the one that I brought up on Thursday night, where she does the double dildo with the lady.
Oh yeah, Requiem for a Dream.
Requiem for a Dream. Oh, yeah. If you guys honestly much like Beautiful Boy or something, Beautiful Boy is not as physically brutal as Requiem for a Dream, but Requiem for a Dream, Ellen Burstyn's fucking her portrayal of a meth, like a grandma meth head, that's why you just got to watch it to see this old lady who she didn't know what she was taking, and she just became a crazy fucking meth head. She got nominated for an Academy Award, which doesn't always, we've talked about in the past how that doesn't always mean anything, but in this instance, she was fucking great in that fucking role. But it's a nightmare. So you have the pop culture ones that can go either way, but like Dazed and Confused, where they make it look like it's humorous, it's funny,
half-baked.
Yeah. Oh, there's all kind. Up in Smoke, all of the fucking Cheech and Chong things, except for your favorite fucking dumb
the
Cheech
Corsican
and Chong movie,
Brothers.
The Corsican Brothers. So you have those two, which are like big ones, and then of course you have the ones that deal with the drug trade itself. So you like Traffic, like you said, Blow, Goodfellas. Well, because he ends up becoming okay. Now we can argue about whether it's a drug movie or it's not a drug movie, right? But he ends up being a cokehead, and he ends up getting busted
does
for it.
Go to jail.
Mm-hmm. That's what he ends up rolling over on them all for.
That's why he narcs everybody off, because he got busted for drugs.
Did you like Traffic?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was I liked Benicio del Toro in that a lot.
Well, he's a great actor, but I fucking dug what they did with the videography, man.
Yeah, the way they did, it was in different colors for all.
With the weird, like, black and whites at some parts, and some of it was
when he's in Mexico, that was the Benicio del Toro stuff.
Yeah.
And then the blue stuff was the background when it was Michael Douglas dealing with his daughter and when he was the drug czar.
But that one scared the shit out of me, too, on some level. Again, because... So the drugs don't bother me. And this goes back to the fear thing. But that girl in high school, the dude from that 70s show turns her on to fucking smoking heroin. She gets addicted. Next thing you know, she's fucking turning tricks so that she can get high. And that scares the piss out of me, dude. And it's not because I think if I start doing heroin, I'm going to turn tricks. It's because I hate seeing that little girl doing that shit.
So the 23-year-old girl that I brought up from the one, I can't remember what her name was that I'm gonna remember her name because I'll tell you in just a minute when I'm gonna remember her name. Her name was Marissa. So like they have all these interviews with the kids in the show, and she's talking about how like she's offended because every time she goes to a family event, because everyone knows that she's a junkie, right? They're all covering, protecting their wallets or hiding their diamonds, or they all think that she's like, fuck you, I'm not gonna fucking rob you. I have more self-respect than that. I get my own fucking money in my own fucking way. But she started talking about how she gets her own money, right? She said, I fucking work at the strip club, and then I turn tricks through people that I pick up at the strip club. And she says, I do all that. She says, I never steal from anybody else because I'm not gonna hurt anybody directly for what it is that I'm doing.
But I don't mind hurting myself.
That's exactly what she said. Like I've destroyed my self-respect, and I don't mind hurting myself because I'm the person that's making. So she's like oddly like very like Catholic, sort of like Mother Teresa. I'm going to become a prostitute because I'm responsible for the outcomes of my own situation. And of course, and she talked a lot about like the shame and like the cycle of like how when you talk to your parents and they tell you how disappointed they are in you, and about how you have that shame, and about how like that cycle you like sort of get caught in that headspace. And I heard a lot of these kids talking about that and their inability to negotiate that because they keep having the parents keep projecting this you were such a good kid, you had all this potential, now you're fucking worthless and you're a fucking slummy fucking, so they just don't want to deal with it. So what ended up happening to Marissa? She overdosed at 23. So I mean, she goes through that process of self-loathing, self-hating, doing those very self-hating things to herself, and then fucking like the question that I always like enters my mind in those moments, which is something they deal like right at the beginning of Euphoria with, is when a person gets into that headspace where they see themselves doing these things and they don't like what it is that they're seeing. The escape act is a double escape act. It's an escape in the getting high, but it's also an escape in the sense that it gives you the opportunity to kill yourself so that you don't have to face up to all these other things that are, you don't have to deal with how other people see you anymore, or more important than that, how you see yourself, Wow. Meaning that when you overdose, sometimes it's intentional.
No, I get it. I understood what you were saying. I just I don't know, dude. Now I'm thinking about, well,
Zendaya said it right at the beginning. I mean, she said it as clear as day. And I mean, obviously that's not fucking, but like when I was listening to those kids talk, like when I would hear them talk about what their parents were saying to them and how that was the same thing that the chef kid was saying in Beautiful Boy. His dad, they had all these memories, and then where he fucking overdoses, like I said, is in that this
camp
place
spot
that ties to their past and these great memories that they have as children, and at him as a child and with his father, so like like poetic even in a way, in a horrible
Well,
fucking
it's
way.
extremely fucking poetic. The thing I can't figure out is whether or not he was trying to tell his dad to fuck off,
I think you should watch the movie. Don't just watch the
or
movie.
whether or not he was trying to be connected to
I
him.
honestly think when I watch the movie, and I don't like, I haven't read the books, because so it's about that movie specifically is about a kid by the name of, give me just 2 seconds here real quick. I will be right on my notes. Nick Chef is this kid, and it's based on true story. He was a big meth head. In the movie, like I said, Brian, they kind of fuck up the way they portray it in some respects, in my estimation. Like I said, I haven't read the 2 books he talks about, but he identifies himself as a meth head. But it seems to me like he graduates from the kids that you typically do as a teenager in high school. If you're a drug user as a high school, where you smoke the weed, you drink, you smoke cigarettes, you might do some coke or maybe like a little bit of meth, but like he goes crazy on meth, and then he graduates to heroin. And it doesn't seem like when Nick Chef talks about his life that heroin was his big thing. But I'd have to go and read the books, because ultimately I have to believe that when they show him dying in that bathroom, when he overdoses and when he dies for that time period in the bathroom, that probably I'd assume that would be true, but ultimately.
I don't understand that graduation. Like, for me personally, I never did coke. I never did meth because I was always about the shit that would knock you back. Right?
Yeah, I'm an otter too. Like
I wanted to slow my brain down because it's just going all the fucking time. And I can't fucking do it, dude. I mean, I can't.
Probably a good thing that you or I never did heroin. Probably a good thing.
Well,
no fentanyl, no heroin.
But heroin's one of them that'll knock you back.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Straight nod. I mean,
yeah.
Like,
so the ones that speed you up, I don't want those. I want like the fucking benzodiazepines and again stuff that'll. And when I say take you down a peg or two, I don't mean
you don't want antipsychotics. You don't want something that's going to make you.
Well, no. When I say take it down a peg or two, I don't mean you were fucking trying to insult my fucking intelligence and say, well, you're wrong, so I'm taking you down a peg or two. I'm saying take you down a peg or two because I'm tired of that. Maybe it works both ways.
You want to feel like you're floating on a cloud of titties.
Yeah.
That's another good drug movie.
Dude, and Greg Allman is so fucking awesome in that. He's only in like 6 scenes, dude.
What's it called?
Rush.
Yes, that's right. Oh, and they're undercover cops. That's right.
Yeah, so they're narcs.
And they make her do the heroin there, and she's never done heroin before.
But dude, for cops, they did drugs the entire fucking movie.
Yeah.
They did speed, they did weird shit. That one fucking weird guy that's like, I keep everything in there at body temperature.
It's like what Matthew McConaughey was talking about when he was doing his undercover work in True Detective.
Yeah.
What did he? That was called something intensive undercover drug something or another.
Yeah. High intensity. It doesn't fucking matter.
It means that they were doing lots and lots of drugs undercover.
Yeah. So. But dude, I love that movie, and maybe that's not a drug movie either. Maybe that's an undercover cop movie.
Was that Robin Wright as a kid? Who was with him? No, it wasn't.
No, it was.
What was her name?
Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Oh, okay.
And Lost Boys guy, whatever his name is.
Jason Patrick.
Yeah. And then Greg Allman.
Yeah, Greg Allman. Yeah, and he didn't barely ever see. He was the coke dealer, but he didn't ever say nothing.
No, he was only in 5 scenes, but the most memorable scene is at the end. So they had to both clean up because, drug dealers would say that they were using drugs and they wanted to be able to, take a piss test or whatever. So they cleaned themselves up. And Jason Patrick actually put a fucking iron to his arm to get rid of the track marks. But they went to court because they finally got this guy, and they had no fucking proof on him. They actually planted evidence and did all of this shit. But Greg Allman was there in court, and like, I don't know, the night before or 2 nights before the court date, somebody fucking stuck a shotgun through the window of this trailer where they were staying and rubbed it down her face. And then when Greg Allman was in the fucking courtroom, he took 2 fingers and put it right above his eye and then ran it down his nose and down his face to the neck. Because, oh yeah, and they shot Jason Patrick that night too, besides the rubbing the shotgun. Yeah. So Greg Allman did the double barrel shotgun down his face in the courtroom, and Jennifer Jason Leigh, she ended up killing him. But I mean, it's a great fucking flick.
It was
dude.
Dark, dude. I remember like in the annals of like drugstore, cowboy stuff, but with violence,
Well, but dude, violence. Like he was jonesing so fucking bad. He's crawling around the carpet, crying and trying to find fucking.
They were junkies.
Yeah.
I mean, they became junkies. And he had, and she said something to him, but she said, "Haven't you've been doing this for too long?" She basically starts to kind of engage him, saying, "You're a junkie," but then she became the same thing.
Well, she was a junk. She cleaned up fairly quickly, and then like helped him out of his whatever.
I forgot that they killed him. It was a good movie. Jason Patrick was a fucking horrible actor. Like, he was good in that movie, and he was fine in Lost Boys, but like, he disappeared.
I don't remember seeing him in much. Well, he was in Sleepers.
Oh, he was in Sleepers.
And he was pretty fucking good in Sleepers.
He did fine in that, yeah. That was a good movie. God, that was a fucked up movie. I don't want to talk about that movie
anymore. Yeah, so Rush was one I was gonna mention. When we're talking about drug movies, I don't think you can talk about drug movies without mentioning Scarface. Yeah, every fucking
I had that on here.
Every fucking dildo drug dealer, gangbanger, whatever.
They fantasize about being.
Yeah, they've all got it.
Say hello, my little friend.
But I mean, dude, that is possibly fucking Brian. What's his name?
De Palma.
Yeah, Brian De Palma. That may be one of his best movies. It might be the best movie he did. It was his best
movie. I mean, I don't know. Like, what else? I don't remember anything else that he did that was. I mean, he's
done things he did good. A bunch of weird shit. He was big on sci-fi. But Scarface, definitely. So it didn't start off a drug movie. It started off as kind of this.
Untouchables was a good movie. Okay, I give him a little love for that.
But
it's a different kind of drug.
He did Blowout. He did Carlito's Way, which was another one that could have been a drug movie.
He did Black Dahlia. I mean, he got a lot of props for that. He did some other stupid shit, though. He did the first Mission Impossible movie, Raising Cain. That was kind of goofy.
I kind of like that, but I like Lithgow.
Casualties of War was goofy. Untouchables was a great fucking film, though. I liked Untouchables.
The Fury was the one I was thinking of that was the sci-fi one. But he's done a bunch of stuff.
Huh?
Snake Eyes, that was a horrible fucking movie.
Yeah, that was not good. I didn't ever see Carlito's Way, dude. I didn't ever see Bonfire of the Vanities either, to be honest with you. Which is kind of
odd. So I guess
Blowout was good.
Yeah. Scarface didn't start off as a drug movie. It started off as an immigration movie.
It did, yeah.
I mean, because all of these fucking Cubans were fleeing Cuba, and it turned out some of them were criminals.
And he was just looking for opportunity.
Tony Montana was a criminal.
And he had some experience with
killing people.
With chainsaws, right?
Well,
that's the
they used the chainsaw on him. on his friend. He
That's
didn't
a
use the
famous. That's a
chainsaw.
famous scene, though. That was like the scene that, like, when I first wanted to watch that movie. That was when I was a little kid, and they're like talking about a guy gets fucking cut up with a chainsaw.
Yeah, dude, that was the first coke deal that they were doing, and Tony didn't bring the cash because he knew better, so he left it in the car, and they fucking handcuffed his friend to the shower, and they're like, "You need to bring us the money." And the guy that was supposed to be backing him up was down there trying to get some pussy from girls that were skating on fucking Miami Beach. So his friend got chainsawed. But yeah, I mean, dude, I love that fucking movie.
He directed Carrie, dude. I didn't realize that. Yeah, we don't go on tangents at all about anything.
No.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, like I showed you, on my list of the drug trade stuff, I had Scarface down. So, and I have Goodfellas, even though you think that Goodfellas is not a drug movie. I don't have Pulp Fiction down, even though I think that is probably one of the best drug scenes in the history of the fucking universe, dude.
Well, so when you say the drug scene, you're talking about the OD bitch, right?
You want me to stab her in the chest 3 times?
Because really, from a directorial point of view, when fucking Travolta shoots up and he's driving home, that could be a fucking good drug scene. I mean, because he's seeing. And I didn't think with fucking heroin you'd see tracers.
You see tracers.
But maybe everything slows down.
I never did heroin, but I did. The first time I ever had MDMA, it was cut with heroin. It was definitely cut with heroin. Like, holy fucking shit, I'd never had anything like that before in my life. And we were sitting at DeKalb Park, so really how it all started, this is kind of funny, actually. I shouldn't always tell these fucking bad stories from my childhood, but my mom was going over to Phil's house that night, and we were sitting in my backyard, and Eric had gotten it, right? So me and Eric and I think Brady had eaten it. Yeah, it was me and Eric and Brady. And my mom had just left, and I had this like disgusting little fucking 3-chamber plastic purple bong that had like the tubes that went from one chamber to the next chamber. And there was this big pile of fucking, de-seeded, Mexican weed on the fucking, brick weed on the fucking table. So we're putting it in my fucking big bowl, and Seamus is over there with us. And my mom had like literally like 20 minutes left, and she must have just had, her spidey sense was tingling. So she fucking came back home, and she looks around the corner, and Seamus is sitting in the chair in the backyard. We have the table, and he sees her look around the corner, and he goes, "Oh fuck." And my mom swore for years that he said "fuck you" to her, and I was like, "Mom, Seamus is like one of the most respectful kids that ever came to our house. He would never say fuck you to a mother or an adult for that matter. His mom died when he was like 15. Like, he was just a really respectful kid." So either way, my mom starts going fucking ballistic, and I can already feel. We took the ecstasy like 20 minutes beforehand, and I'd taken a hit already. Smoked a little bit of weed, and I could feel it fucking kicking in already. And my mom starts going Looney Tunes on us. And I said, "Mom, I love you. I can't do this right now. I got to get the fuck out of here." So we hopped in fucking Brady's car, drove to fucking DeKalb Park. We went into the back, and I just laid down. Oh no, it was not Ryan Brady. It was Ryan Carpenter. And
that's a different Ryan.
Yeah, that's altogether. A different. Yeah, it is, dude. And I was fucking like, you talk about nodding. Like, I fell down on the grass, and Eric and fucking Ryan are just running like past me, and I got this like tracers, dude, like woo, woo,
right,
woo,
but
woo.
So a lot of times they cut MDMA with LSD also.
This was not LSD. I know the difference between.
Well, no, I understand that, but I mean, you've got experience with opiates or opioids or both, right?
Not at 17.
No. Yeah, I understand that, but now you do.
Yeah.
Have you ever fucking seen a tracer, no matter how doped up you get?
No, but I've had enough people that I've talked to that have done heroin that say that it gets a little weird traily like that in moments.
Okay.
So, I mean, and the way that, so like, the way that trails function, like mushroom trails are different than LSD trails, right? Because LSD trails tend to remind me they're kind of speedy, you know. And it's kind of like
I've never seen a trail on mushrooms, but
really.
so here's the thing. Your story reminded me of another story. Drug related, not media related.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm with Sean.
The dipshit we were talking about earlier.
That's the one.
Okay.
And Josh.
A different dipshit.
Also, there was a girl named Danny and a girl named Lisa that we were supposed to give a ride to.
Love Lisa. Lisa's one of the best.
So we gave a ride to these girls based on the assumption that they were going to give us some mushrooms. So we go clear the fuck up to Westminster. They give us each quite a few mushrooms. A good handful, palmful. We take them. Leave. We're driving around for like an hour and a half, and we're like, this is fucking bullshit.
Really?
We're going back. So we call Danny and go back up, and we're like, fuck you. You gave us these mushrooms for the ride. They didn't do shit.
Ooh, were they late? They came in a little later.
That was the night that I ended up going blind. But she gives me another fucking palmful, and everybody else. So we take the other palmful, and we go and drive around some more. And I was like, fuck it, dude. This is bullshit. I said, just fucking take me home. I said, this sucks.
Back in the day, Lisa was the person that I would get mushrooms from, dude.
So I walk in the door, and this is when we lived on Pennsylvania. Open the door, look over, and my mom and my uncle are sitting there talking. And it just went boom, and the whole fucking living room burst into colors and shit, dude. And I was like, oh my God. And I looked at my mom and my uncle, and I was like, I'll be right back. And I ran back into my bedroom, and I'm like, oh my God, what the fuck do I do? Because it's just colors, boom, 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 and no tracers, but just huge fucking boom, boom. I go back outside, and Sean's out there, and he's like, dude, are you tripping? And I was like, fuck yeah, I need to get the fuck out of here. So we leave. Later on that night, we find Aaron. And of course, we're smoking weed and fucking drinking beer and shit. And somehow I ended up driving. Have no fucking idea how. Did a hit of fucking weed. And I hold it in like I always do. And I'm driving down the road. And I went blind. And they said, why did you stop? And I was like, because I can't fucking see. I am totally blind right now. Luckily, that passed after 3 or 4 minutes, so I kept driving. But, and that is not an endorsement for driving on mushrooms, weed, or booze.
Or taking a whole handful of them and being like, people that gave this to us, this is bullshit. Sometimes mushrooms, like, I don't know what I've never had weed that was creeper weed. I don't know what that even fucking means. I've had weed.
I've heard
shitty
people
weed.
talk about creeper weed. I don't know. Yeah.
But definitely psychedelics. I've had like late arriving psychedelics a couple of times, dude. And sometimes when they hit.
But full on a quarter of a fucking day late, dude? Like
that's a little weird. Yeah. But it happened to both of you. So, I mean, that was, for Bill Maher, who always wants to bitch at anecdotal evidence, in that moment, the anecdotal evidence bore out, and maybe we could get, some of those mushrooms and get another 100, 150 people to try them to see if it has the delayed reaction response that Brian and Sean experienced.
That was such a good night. I had so much fun.
The last time I took mushrooms was July 3rd, 1999. No, that's not true. I actually ate mushrooms about 3 months ago.
Yeah, I thought it was fairly recent.
Well, but no, it wasn't 3 months ago because it was before you lived here.
I thought you told me that you ate mushrooms. That's the only reason.
When the girl who lived here, because she'd never had mushrooms before, and she's like, "Will you just eat a little bit, just so like I have a tether to reality?" And I was like, "God, I haven't eaten mushrooms in fucking years.
That always makes a lot of sense. Here, I need a tether to reality, so get fucked up with me.
Well, whatever. I mean, they weren't the best mushrooms anyway. I just couldn't sleep. I mean, they weren't those. They weren't and they certainly weren't giving me any trails. So like the first time I ever ate mushrooms was in '94. The Dead came to McNichols, but we didn't have tickets, right? But Ryan, because Ryan's an enterprising young man at that time period, he said, let's go down there and see if we can find some good drugs, right? So we got some really good weed, and we got the stickiest, nastiest, most disgusting tasting mushrooms I've ever eaten in my life, right? So this is before Margaret and I were dating, and she came over to my house, and Jesse came over, and all these other people came over who were not tripping, and they were fucking with me, and that was the worst fucking. And dude, everything like trails and colors and rainbows, and it was wonderful.
Do you
the visuals, but the experience was a fucking nightmare.
I can't remember if you were there or not, but do you remember? Because I think you were there. I know Dan was there, but Dave Chappell.
You gotta stop using people's last names, dude.
Well, that's the only way I know how to say his name.
Just say Dave, Crips, Bloods.
Anyway, Dave and me and I think 3 other people who I can't remember who they were.
Not Craig or anybody like that.
Wasn't Chancho. We were fucking tripping balls, dude. And I had like 6 sweaters on because it was cold and we were going to be like adventuring. So we went
That was the Brown Ants night, dude.
That was the night that we broke into the fucking Littleton Museum.
We didn't break into there.
Well, we hopped the fence and I fucking got all those cockaburs
on your fucking sweater. Yeah.
Well, do you remember when
the first night I ever tripped acid?
Do you remember when I pulled that fucking cockabur off and I was like, do you see that thing? Look at it.
There was something alive inside that cockabur. That wasn't just you tripping.
That's what everybody says, but I'm not sure if it was like some weird mass trip thing. What the fuck lives on the inside of a cockabur?
A cockabur bug, You remember there was the weird vagrant guy that
Hold on, you were tripping with us that night? Because I remember going to your house.
We got it from Mike.
Anyway,
Carrie.
He was there too.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, we were all wandering around. We started over. We went over behind those apartments, like in between Orchard and we wandered over there, and then we came. But we started out. You remember we went to Jack in the Box first, and I was like, when is this gonna start affecting me? When is this gonna? And then all of a sudden, we're sitting in the fucking the front of Jack in the Box. And we're all fucking laughing our asses off. And the fucking walls are like breathing and shit like that. And I'm like, because I kept being like, when is this going to hit me? When is this going to hit me? And then like, we've been laughing for a half an hour in fucking Jack in the Box. And I was like, oh shit, we better get the fuck out of here, dude. And we left. And that's when we went down behind there and we went over to fucking Kettering. And that was like the beginning of my psychedelic rituals in Littleton, like where I would walk from park to park when I was tripping at night. And we'd run from the cops and like just the good old days that were just where we were just working it out, trying to figure out what the fuck was going on in the world, Yeah, Mike and Dave was with us that night. Yeah. I didn't remember that he was tripping with us that night. I think Matt Allen was with us that night.
I kind of thought Matt was there, but I wasn't positive.
Do you remember when we were in Kettering, when we went over by the Littleton Museum back in that fucking like wooded area? There was a fucking like weird ass homeless guy that was back there watching us.
Yeah.
That was fucking weird.
And we kept saying, is that a security guard?
It wasn't. It was a fucking homeless guy that was living in the fucking bushes at fucking
all right,
the Littleton.
So I do have another story to tell, maybe.
Oh my God, I can't. This is all. You know what? We should announce our candidacy for presidency now.
But we are at about an hour and 15 now. We're coming up real close. So I think we're going to shut this episode down and start a new one. And hopefully in the new one, we won't just talk about our drug history, but we'll talk about actual media or something along those lines. Well, we need to
peel into a real discussion. I mean, like some of the stuff.
I think that this is important. And I think that anybody who hasn't tried mushrooms probably should. Anybody who hasn't tried LSD probably should. Because I'm telling you, you're not going to get addicted for one.
Don't tell people. The addictive thing is bullshit. That's for sure. Like abuse can come out of it, but it's so uncommon with those. But don't, like, if you feel it, you feel it. If you don't feel it,
No,
don't do it.
I'm not peer pressuring anybody. I'm just saying, like,
psychedelics have a good social
there's a
function when it's
fucking
necessary.
enlightenment thing that comes forward after all of these things.
It has the potential to come forward.
Yeah, you could end up being some fucked up schizophrenic. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not like a teleology. It's not like an input output kind of thing. But I will say that from my experience, and this is what you're suggesting, like, it was the best therapy that I ever had.
Well, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna have a fucking good time. I know one time I had a fucking shit time on mushrooms. That's because my sister showed up with fucking her boyfriend.
That's like a context, and that was what with when Marge and Jesse was like, he was helping me with fucking pieces of ice. That's not cool.
No, but every other time, like when I was juggling fire, when I was fucking up in the woods.
When I was juggling fire, there's a good endorsement. Go take psychedelics and juggle fire.
The Rush concert. I'll tell that story at the next episode.
All right. 720-334-ROLL.
Shortbusdebateclub at yahoo.com, and that word was club, not club.
And this is not, again, we're just talking about experiences. We're throwing out that these experiences have the potential to be good. If you're in a lifestyle like Zendaya was in Euphoria, that's probably abuse, and you really need to start thinking about. But one of the things that we're going to talk about a little bit in the next episode, we have to, I think, just to kind of like foreshadow, not just like get your other story in.
Okay, but end this motherfucker, dude.
I'm going to right now. But I'm just giving a foreshadow.
Okay.
Right? Is that one of the arguments that you make a lot is that you're for not just decriminalization but legalization.
Yes.
Like I think that if we're gonna make an argument for legalization, there are some spaces that we need to fill in with regards to making sure that so like if you legalize things,
I want it to be over the counter and not some pharmaceutical shit that a doctor has to write a prescription.
A space to where people that have problems, like, you have to have systems to
where. No, I think that's part of it, because that's part of the regulation.
So we need to talk about the regulatory component a little bit more. That's all I'm saying.
Addiction to heroin, brings you one way.
Coke, meth,
would bring you shooting, another way.
Shit like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to. So I just want to make sure
support mechanisms are part of the tax structure.
Okay, but we need to talk about that substantively a little bit more.
Peace, motherfuckers.
Later.